Таны төлөө эх орн чинь юу хийж чадах вэ гэж асуухаас өмнө та өөрөө эх орныхоо төлөө юу хийж чадах вэ гэж асуу. Jan Jargal.
Сайн байцгаана уу хүнд үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр манай нэвтрүүлэгт Францын элчин сайд Жан-Поль Дюмон оролцож байна.
Жан-Поль Дюмон Франц улсаас Монгол улсад суугаа онц бөгөөд бүрэн эрхт элчин сайд. 1948 оны 8 дугаар сарын 1-нд төрсөн. Сен-Серван Сюрмер дэх Жан Шаркогийн лицей дорн дахны судлалын үндэсний дээд сургуулийг дүүргэсэн гадаад хэргийн дээд шатны зөвлөх цолтой эрхэлж байсан ажил 1971-ээс 1975 онд Улаанбаатар болон Бээжин дэх элчин сайдын яамд аташе. 1975-аас 1980 оны хооронд Францын гадаад хэргийн яамны захиргаа, консулын газар, Аз номхон далайн газар, Солонгосын хэлтэст ажиллаж байсан. Хонконг, Америк нэгдсэн улс, Вьетнам, Бразил, Бельги, Алжир улсуудад элчин сайд, дипломат төлөөлөгчөөр тус ажиллаж байсан байна. 2009 оны 6 дугаар сараас Монгол улсад суугаа Францын онц бөгөөд бүрэн эрхт элчин сайдаар ажиллаж байна. Хүндэт легионы одон, үндэсний гавьяаны одонгоор шагнагдсан. Англи, Хятад, Орос, Португал хэлтэй.
Good evening, monsieur.
Сайн байна.
Let's talk about how you become a diplomat. I was wondering, you are western part of France.
Yes.
And you studied Chinese. And how come you came to Mongolia? How you became a diplomat?
It's a very intimate question. I would say that it was not forecasted at the beginning that I would be a diplomat since I was born in a farming family. But this farm was close to the sea, and in this area most of the boys want to go to sea or to travel or to go somewhere else. I was bad in mathematics, so diplomat was the good way to travel.
Doesn't mean that all French diplomats cannot do well with mathematics.
Sometimes they do, because mathematics has been used for sometimes to make the difference between good and bad pupils.
Well, in order to go to sea, you better to know math at that time.
At that time, I didn't like them.
Okay. So how come you ended up with Mongolia? You came here in 1971 until 1975.
I had just graduated from the School of Oriental Studies in Chinese, and I had also a Russian option. And they were searching for somebody who would come here as an aide to the ambassador. And it was so hard to find them that we had the opportunity to do our national service.
Who was the ambassador at that time? Was he first ambassador?
The first ambassador, Georges Perruche.
To Mongolia?
Yes, who was, I would say, somebody I respected very much, very admirable man. He had been a prisoner of war in North Korea. In North Korea for 3 years. So he had quite a sense of life, which was very interesting to share with him.
Well, everybody who was in the war, they value the life, the value of life more than anybody who was not in the war. So you became as an aide to the first French ambassador to this country.
Yes.
And it was a time of very, very cold war.
Oh, it was Cold War, I would say, on two fronts, East-West and Soviet-Chinese. It was in the from 71 to 74, so just a few years after the Ussuri incidents. There were quite a lot of Soviet soldiers in Mongolia. I know Mongolia was under this socialist regime, and so diplomats like us were here. We were very few, only the British and the French at the beginning.
Have you seen a big movement of Soviet military in Mongolia or through Ulaanbaatar, where could you feel that presence of military?
More out of Ulaanbaatar, maybe along, for example, the railway. at that time there were no flights to China, so the only way to travel was the train. And they were all along the train from Ulaanbaatar to Zaminud, so it was, I think they were on show. Okay. We didn't have to look, they were on show.
So have you been on that train at that time when you were young diplomat in Mongolia, on the train between Beijing and Ulaanbaatar?
Yes.
What was like this?
I liked it. 24 times.
Who was serving?
So
Chinese or Mongolians? Or
Chinese.
Chinese.
Yes, it was a Chinese train with Chinese stewards. And it was going quite slowly. So, but it's the same. I just traveled to Saint-Chan a few weeks ago, and it was the same.
Almost
speed.
The same after 30 years. How about this cross-border, the train, the wheel change, all this stuff? Is the same too?
Yes, but it was not new for me. I had encountered it between Soviet Union and Poland. It was the same, changing the wheels, took time.
You have been working with Russia, you learned Russian?
I learned Russian, but I've never been working with Russia.
Okay, then after Mongolia, you went to where?
I came back to Paris to pass my exams to become a diplomat. And after that, I have been served in Paris, of course, in various positions at the Asian department, in the staff of our minister. But also I served in Hong Kong, in United States, Vietnam, Brazil, Belgium, Algeria, Caribbean.
Vietnam?
Vietnam, yes. I was for 4 years Consul General in Ho Chi Minh City.
Okay. So you came as ambassador after how many years to this country? Of your service, say 75 when you had left?
38 years.
38 years after to New Mongolia.
To New Mongolia.
New Ulaanbaatar.
Very New Mongolia.
Traffic jam, terrible air.
But I forget it. What I like is to have Mongolian friends.
Okay.
To have the opportunity to talk with you today. That was something we could not imagine.
Have you met your friends from that time when you came back?
Yes.
Could you mention a couple of them?
The Japanese ambassador.
Okay.
But also a former ambassador in Paris, who is now Vice President of Areva Mongol.
Well, say 35 years, almost 40 years since that.
Yes, yes.
What kind of major things happened in between two countries, among people, or in the cultural relations? What particular things you would like to highlight?
No, this relationship is quite old now. We have commemorated the 45th anniversary of relations. But I would say that from 1965 or 66 for the opening of the embassy to the democratic revolution in Mongolia, these have been relations, I would say, formal relations. With one exception, cultural. We had an agreement, French teaching in the university, Mongolian studies in Paris. And this has remained, I would say, the hard core of our relationship. The Mongolian studies in Paris maybe are the most advanced in Europe.
About cultural relations of two countries. So you said very interesting, Lee, that culture was something that was always kept developing.
Yes. And even because for 12 years the embassy was closed. As you know, it was in the Dzotchid Budal.
Ulaanbaatar Dzotchid Budal, yes.
And for 12 years the embassy was closed, as I told you, because budgetary reasons. The government felt that, the current government at that time felt that there were not substantial relations enough to maintain an embassy. It was closed. But the French teaching remained during that time.
And French, there were always French teachers.
Yes.
In Mongolia.
Yes. There have always been. I would say French teaching has started maybe with Professor Elчин or something at that time.
Still we have a lot per capita, I would say, people who speaks French, who studies French. How many Mongolians go to France now on this culture side?
On the culture side, I think we have something about 80 Mongolian students in France now. Some may be on a scholarship, some on for private reasons, but 80 altogether. But we don't know exactly. Now there is, I would say, a free traveling between Mongolia and France.
On the economic side,
yes,
I think this is rather. How do you evaluate the current situation of economic cooperation between two countries?
There are very strong opportunities for both countries. Of course, Mongolia is, I would say, far away from France, but Mongolia offers opportunities. Everybody, of course, would mention the uranium, but that's not the only one. There are also for example, France maybe must be now the first European buyer of processed cashmere from Mongolia. There are opportunities, for example, in cooperation in equipment, in sanitation, in water. The French company is now in Erdenet extending the sanitation. We have just opened here in Ulaanbaatar air pollution control stations provided by France, but there are many opportunities. Also, of course, in food and agriculture.
You said about processed cashmere buying to France.
Mm-hmm.
What is made out of it and how does it proceed? Who is processing it?
Well, yeah, your companies. Gobi, Goyo.
Do you have goat in France?
Yes, we have.
Do you process cashmere from those goats?
No, because it's not cold enough.
Not cold enough. So, France is in Italy as well.
Italy buys raw cashmere.
Okay, but nevertheless, both you guys have not goats for cashmere, but you have a wonderful products with out of cashmere. And those wonderful cashmere is coming in this or that way from Mongolia. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So we are part of making your brand names famous too.
I'm sure.
Okay. You talked about uranium, and there is a lot of opportunity. Why uranium with France when they have other big countries who have also technology? Why do you think?
It depends that France has a very strong experience. And France has a company which is as I would say the mastership of the nuclear activities, from uranium extraction to the production of electricity, of power. No other company has the same spectrum of activities.
Of value chain.
This company is a world leader. And we have in France also our power company, EDF, which also has a very strong experience. You know that in France, more than 80% of the power produced, electric power produced in France, is produced with nuclear power.
80% of France buy nuclear power station?
More than 80.
But yet we say nuclear power station is very dangerous. We remember the example in Chernobyl.
Yeah, but Chernobyl was not in France. With Chernobyl, there were other reasons for this accident. It was a very, of course, concerning accident because it, of course, it touched not only the area of Chernobyl but also a big part of Europe. But in France, we have a good experience of safety. That doesn't mean that we are not aware, but maybe Chernobyl was also a good lesson for others. But it's also a question of consensus.
What happened last week when Germans were blocking a railroad, a train coming from France to Germany? What was that?
I told you that this French company, we have and has all the spectrum activities,
Yes.
has also within its activities the recycling of waste,
Nuclear waste.
So it's only two companies in the world do it, the French and a British one. So the waste from all over the world comes to France to be recycled, including from Germany.
All nuclear waste must be recycled, process it again so that it is not dangerous for people. Right?
It has to be recycled. It has to
And
be
then why
recycled.
the Germans are refusing to have back their own waste?
They have their own policy. The former government of Germany decided to get out of the nuclear cycle, they said.
Where it is supposed to go. It should go
Yeah.
to somebody's country.
So, but this waste has been in France for a long time, because the recycling takes a very long time. And it happens that movements in Germany were opposed to the returning of this waste. But it's their own. It's not ours.
What will happen with us after if we have a nuclear power in Mongolia?
You have to recycle it.
That waste to be recycled in France.
Or in somewhere else.
In England.
Or in England.
So it's quite...
I think Japan also now.
I think it's a small, relatively size-wise, but dangerous.
But it's not a question only of danger, it's a question also of recuperation of some a waste. We call it a waste. I'm not a specialist, but I would say there are many materials in this waste, and some can be used again to produce electricity.
Okay. So we hope that there will be more cooperation in economic field with France in particular in terms of nuclear
There
energy.
will be. Our Minister of Trade was here a few
Recently.
weeks ago.
Yes.
She signed an agreement, intergovernmental agreement of cooperation in the nuclear sector, the peaceful use of nuclear energy.
Nuclear energy.
So this is an agreement that I would say very important, which is, I would say, goes further than extraction of uranium.
Areva is a state-owned French company.
It is, yes.
Government, 100%
It
owned.
has, no, not 100%. They are also private. Siemens has been a stakeholder.
A
of
partner.
private, yeah.
That's a good example of PPP, private-public partnership.
Let's say it started state-owned and then...
State-owned,
yes, yeah.
then sold
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
percent
yes.
for
Yeah.
the
It's
profit
more
to the
complicated
government.
than that.
Areva also makes some exploration of uranium in Mongolia,
Yeah.
and they have certain field where they have a particular right of exploration, later on probably process and production. Where is that?
They have licenses in Dornogovi
Tornogobi.
and in Surpatar.
Okay, what's going on with uranium in a former uranium ore place, Matat, the Mardai? It has nothing to do with
Nothing to do with
that. Okay,
that.
so this is a new source of uranium energy.
This
Good.
is it.
Let me talk about another field, which is legal, constitutional. We have learned and we have studied a lot France Constitution. And I understand we reflected certain experiences in our constitution. Would you comment on that?
I wouldn't say that the French Constitution is the one which has been the most, would say, chosen to inspire Mongolian legislators.
Why?
I don't know. I think because the French system is more presidential, less parliamentary, I would say. We still believe in a useful government, useful state. The state is useful, no? In a strong government, strong state, central state. This is why the others call us. We are called Jacobins.
French government is different. Yeah. Okay. Our president, bөгөөд, recently proposed cancellation of a death penalty, first time in our history, which raises certain debate in the country. And you are one of the country who abolished it. What do you think about that? About Mongolian proposal?
It's first of all, I must tell you that we, the French, support the initiative by the President bөгөөд, because we had been through this experience 30 years ago. I would say in the same background. That means population was considered to be in majority in favor of maintaining the death penalty. It's very useful for politicians to use opinion surveys. But the President Mitterrand, who had been just elected, had put the abolition at top of his program. And he was helped by another statesman, Robert Badinter, who was a lawyer at that time, and who had himself assisted the convicted to the death penalty. So he knew exactly what it was. And they decided to go against opinion surveys, against this majoritarian trend of the population, and they did it. And they convinced even people from the MPs from the right to vote it.
After, say, you said 36 years ago.
Exactly 30 years ago.
Then now, looking back, if you were right or not, was it exactly the result you wanted?
I think so. I would say...
Because our concern is if with this abolishment, we may encourage or silently, not discourage, silently encourage the criminal acts. Don't you think?
I would say it has confirmed that death penalty is useless.
Useless.
Is useless. Of course, it will change nothing in the, would say, the law, the small criminality, little thieves, things like that. But it would say in blood criminality, it has not raised. It has decreased.
Oh, is it? And how many countries have adopted that system of cancellation of death penalty?
Cancellation? All European countries, all Latin American countries, a big part of the African countries. The biggest percentage of countries maintaining the death penalty is in Asia.
In Asia?
Yes. 40% of it.
Why is that?
I don't think it's because of Buddhism, because Buddhism defends life, yes, including that of the animals. So it's not Buddhism. Maybe more Confucianism. And, I have no idea. I have just questions.
Okay. From tomorrow, there will be G20 meeting in Seoul. All presidents come, etc., and your country is going to take over the presidency. Do you know if there is a particular things, because it's such a not easy time with the currency, with the crisis, and so many other programs to complete?
Sure, there will be. I would say I would not comment what will happen in Seoul, what will be the outcome. We shall leave that to the common politicians and journalists who are all around the chief of states and governments who will gather in Seoul. What I can tell you is what will be the program of the French presidency when it will be taken over after the Korean presidency. It was, of course, a program of continuity because everybody is satisfied with the Korean presidency. Our president who takes very seriously this presidency and the other one, because France will have the presidency of the G7 as well as the G20. And I can give you the lines of it, because it's, I would say, it remains, it's very relevant with what's happening nowadays. Reform of the monetary system, to reduce the volatility of commodity markets, transparency measures, a deeper dialogue between producers and consumers in order to limit fluctuations in energy prices. This is very relevant for Mongolia, because Mongolia is, has a future. Maybe it will not be only an exporter of raw materials. I know that your government wants them to be added with another value. And the third point was global governance, innovative financing to combat poverty, to foster education, to resolve planet's health pandemics, for example.
Well, out of these issues you have highlighted about the currency issue, and now our money is appreciated,
Yeah.
getting appreciated.
Congratulations.
Well, Chinese are fighting for not having that much appreciated. What do you think of the future of this money, Mongolian money, in the near future?
I think that when a country currency gets better and better, harder and harder, it can be a good news. The bad news is when it's losing competitivity. What happened to the euro, for example? You know that it's hard to sell planes, for example, when the dollar is very low.
Yes.
Because these prices are calculated in dollars. And we produce in euros and we sell in dollars. It's not exactly what we want. Also.
In a way, same with Japanese.
So maybe Mongolian problem is the same problem as the euro problem.
Well, we wish we have the same problem, selling planes or something like very highly sophisticated products. And today we do not much export value-added products. We just some minings, as you know, some very initial processed Kashmir. And our politicians talk a lot, but I don't see major changes in Mongolian export yet. Do we have a trade agreement with France, and in between France and Mongolia?
I don't think so. But I'm not sure that
But
it's
not.
required. No, because now your partner is not France, it's Europe. And there will be soon what we call a PCA, a Partnership and Cooperation Agreement with Europe.
We have an agreement with Europe exempting tax for goods coming from Mongolia.
The SPG+. That's a very good agreement.
Yeah, but if it is done anything on that agreement, what kind of things were exported from Mongolia and exempted from tax? Are you aware of any?
I suppose the Kashmir, textiles.
Well, I suppose two.
Yeah.
But there were a tremendous long list of products that can be exempted. I think we are underusing it, this opportunity.
It's up to Mongolian industry to have new products.
All right. How do you see the future relations of Mongolia with Europe?
I'm sure that after this PCA, which should be signed in December in Brussels, I would say also Mongolia has a very good initiative, or I would say more than initiative is a request, is to access to European standards. And I think we are very close to each other. So I don't question the future. The question just how long will it take?
How long it will take. Thank you very much. In terms of standard, I think this is something, one of the very few good news from the recent period in the country, where instead of trying and doing many mistakes, we just are taking this European standards. And I'm so glad that you highlighted this one in particular. And well, I hope, as you do, the relations will go very well, and it will be reflected in increasing living standard of Mongolians, in the way we produce, in the way we govern, in the way the city is run, in the way all public property is run. That's why I would like to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us tonight. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. I'll work for it. Not only hope, but work for it.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you.